Funding for this edition of Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Russell Berry Foundation, making a difference. Delta Dental of New Jersey. Everyone deserves a healthy smile. MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey. The Northward Center. Fedway Associates. The New Jersey Economic Development Authority. The New Jersey Education Association. Choose New Jersey. Our mission is attracting companies to the Garden State. And by Wells Fargo. Promotional support provided by NJ.com. Small news, big news, true Jersey. And by Jaffe Communications, supporting our state's innovators and changemakers with public relations, creative services, and more.
Welcome to Think Tank. I'm Steve Adubato. Everything you wanted or needed to know, whether you know it or not, about climate change, you're about to find out. We have Dr. David Robinson, who is a distinguished professor at my alma mater and a lot of others, Rutgers University, New Jersey State Climatologist. What does that mean to be the state's climatologist?
Well, it's an appointed position I've had for 28 years, and we're kind of the go-to office on all things weather and climate in the state. People have questions. We have a weather network of 65 stations in real time around the state, but we can look at data from 100 years ago. We help people make decisions, and so much is related to the weather and climate that it covers just about anything you can think of around the state.
Yeah, and by the way, if you watch NJTV News, David's on a lot trying to break things down and make sense of things, so we're going to do that right now. If you had to define, quote-unquote, define climate change 30 seconds or less, could you do it?
Sure.
Go.
There's elevator speeches. It's the impact of humans at this point in time on our environment. We're putting another blanket on the bed, if you will, and keeping the heat in close to the planet for longer than naturally has occurred. And as such, we're seeing changes in temperature, precipitation, sea level. A variety of environmental indicators are telling us that the planet is running a bit of a fever.
So for some folks who say, you know, all right, I agree that it exists, but no big deal. Some of you folks in the media make too big a deal about this. We're overreacting to it. Just chill and relax, you say.
It is a big deal. It may not be a big deal on a day-to-day basis as we see it, unless a storm like Sandy comes along that was given a little extra oomph.
What does Sandy have to do with climate change?
Sea surface temperatures were above normal, and models have suggested that the storm wouldn't have been as strong if sea surface temperatures off our coast had been average in that late October of 2012.
Keep going. Why does it matter?
It matters because we live on the edge, if you will. We need to have fresh water to drink. We need to have food to eat. And a state like us, a coastal state, we need that coastal area for our own cultural identity, tourism, and beyond. So it touches all aspects of our life.
Is the Jersey Shore, where a lot of us spend so much time, brings in so much revenue, it brings so much enjoyment to people, is it at greater risk because of climate change?
Oh, there's no question. Sea level is rising. It's risen about a foot and a half in the last century. About 2/3 of that is due to the warming of the ocean waters, and they expand and get higher. And we're also starting to pour additional water into the oceans from melting ice sheets.
We're talking with, if you're listening on the audio side, Dr. David Robinson from Rutgers University, distinguished professor there, also the state's climatologist. So what are we, regular folk, what are we doing to contribute to climate change?
Well, we're burning fossil fuels, whether it's heating our homes, driving our automobiles. We are adding to that mix. And with that, as you said, you have this additional blanket on the atmosphere that holds the warmth. It's just if you're in bed and you're cold at night, you have a blanket on you, you put another blanket on. Eventually that heat will leave and get away from your body into your bedroom, but it's going to stay there a little longer and you'll be comfortable. Well, we're putting another blanket on a natural greenhouse, and with that, warming things up, changing weather patterns, melting Arctic ice.
But Doctor, excuse me for interrupting.
Yeah.
When you start talking about people driving their cars, what are you advocating? That we stop driving cars?
Nope, there's a lot of ways we can get at this, and this gets beyond my job description as a scientist, but it does touch on it. In Jersey, transportation is a big energy consumer. Generation of electricity and our home heating, and we can address all of those and without suffering the consequences. We have to use less energy and we have to use cleaner energy, but we can do that with a concerted effort. I mean, we got in this situation because as humanity, we've been relatively successful. So now we should benefit from our knowledge and be able to address a problem that we've created as we've built that success.
Dr. David Robinson, I'm curious about this. New Jersey and its issues around climate change versus the rest of the country, is there a difference?
In a subtle sense, there's been evidence that's recently made the press that New Jersey is one of the faster warming states. Here along the East Coast, in the northern plains, and some of the mountainous west. Now that's in the lower 48. There's no state warming more than Alaska. It is just off the charts how the climate is changing up there.
Do the folks up in Alaska acknowledge that?
Oh, they're well aware of that. They're actually our first climate refugees. They're having to move because their communities are getting eroded away by the ocean waters up there that usually are covered with sea ice. Now they're not as frequently covered with sea ice.
Dr. David Robinson, do you get concerned, upset, whatever you want to say about those, and even if they're not, quote, climate change deniers, they are slow to act from a public policy point of view because they, again, will argue that we can't overreact. They will mock, some of them, the new Green Deal, and we're not advocating one way or another, whether we're for it or against it. It's not our job in public broadcasting. But is there a part of you that gets frustrated when you hear the mocking, oh, really, so stop eating hamburgers, that's the problem? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is there a part of you, given the severity of a situation that you just described, that you've spent your professional and personal life dedicated to where people mock it?
Yeah, it's a little hurtful that scientists have been given the short end for quite a while. You know, it comes down to this isn't a system of beliefs. This is a matter of understanding.
Your opinion or mine. That's not what this is.
It's understanding. That's what I try to do whenever I do a public lecture, whenever I teach a class, whenever I give an interview. It's a matter of understanding what's going on. And once we all are on the same page in terms of our understanding, then we can discuss the different ways we can address the problem. But as a climatologist, I first want people to understand how things work. The physics tell us this, the observations tell us this, our modeling tells us this, and I don't expect everyone to be an expert. Just have a little faith in us that we understand the situation.
Break this down. People are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of mass extinction. This comes from, is it Greta Thunberg? Yeah. Thunberg, who is, I think she's 16 years of age, climate activist. I believe she was mocked by President Trump after she spoke publicly. You know who she is, and she got a lot of media attention. Did she help?
Seemingly so. I think it's really awakened the younger generation. They're realizing the predicament we're in and that they're going to face later this century.
Was it hyperbole?
And beyond. You know, when you're an environmental activist, you sometimes speak very strongly. You're not a scientist like me where we're publishing our work in refereed journals.
And peer-reviewed process.
Yeah.
Okay, but did she serve an important public? Did she help this cause?
Well, it's certainly early on that account, but I would say looking at the protests that were global in nature these past month or two, that yes, because it heightened awareness of the problem.
Final question on this. Unless I have this wrong, you have said, quote, we've sealed our fate. I mean, is it too late?
It's not time to give up hope. I like to say that the train has left the station.
Have we sealed our fate for the next 30 years?
Well, yeah, because it seems as if no matter what we've done up to this date, the next 30 years are pretty much determined. But what we do now will have an impact on the later part of this century.
And for some of us who may not even be around at that time, we have a responsibility, do we not?
We are stewards of our planet, in my opinion. We're intelligent beings, and we should practice that stewardship.
One very intelligent being is Dr. David Robinson, Distinguished Professor at Rutgers University and the state's climatologist on Think Tank. I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Keep this conversation going. Be right back on Think Tank right after this.
To watch more Think Tank with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
Anthony Russo is president, Commerce and Industry Association of New Jersey, CEO and publisher of Commerce Magazine. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
I am honored to contribute to Commerce Magazine. I should make it clear at no pay. I'm not negotiating.
It's a good partnership, though.
It's a great partnership.
Works better that way, right?
Yes, I get a chance to talk about leadership there, but let's talk about leadership here. Can we talk about, I want to get into transportation issues, Gateway Tunnel, et cetera, American Dream. But right now, we had an interview with David Robinson, Dr. Robinson, state's climatologist. It's not about debating whether climate change exists, but it is questioning what policy should be.
Right.
The impact of climate change on small business, A and B, what business is doing about it.
Yeah, the threshold question really isn't whether or not there's climate change.
There is.
It's what should we do about it.
Go ahead.
Right? So our belief and our position is let the markets drive, what happens, because both through innovation. So as far as CO2 emissions, right, carbon dioxide, that's the biggest greenhouse gas emissions that everybody's concerned about. A lot of companies now are capturing that carbon, sequestering it, meaning that it's not being emitted. And I think that technology will continue to evolve. So I think a lot of companies are going to take care of the problem through technology, but also a lot of investors in these large companies are sophisticated. They want to see that environmental sustainability, reduce that carbon footprint. It's good for their investments. It's good for social responsibility. So instead of having the government...
I'm sorry for interrupting. Why can't government push the regulation harder?
Because
they say that, devil's advocate,
right.
We can't be sure that every business is going to do that. Now, Mr. Russo, we have to make sure that the DEP and other agencies and the EPA on the federal level, that we mandate it. You say?
And I say that the states, this isn't really a state issue. It's more
federal.
Regional, global.
That's right.
And we've all seen weather maps, right? The weather comes in from the west. So if we do something in New Jersey that really impacts our businesses here, are we really accomplishing that, solving the climate change issue, right? We want to make sure that it's a regional approach, a global approach, national approach. And so the caution there is, government has this need to jump in.
Are you worried about overregulation?
All the time. I mean, I think it's one of these issues where set up the policy, but we also have that metric that makes sure that whatever policy is implemented really results in a cleaner environment.
Shift gears. Okay, so we're taping on, help me on, we're taping on the 23rd, I believe, of October. All right, I'll get the month, don't worry, Nicole. So October 23rd. We're 2 days before a soft launch. I think is it called a soft launch?
Soft launch, yeah.
Over at American Dream.
Amusement park is going to open.
All right, but NJTV News has been covering this every night, and you're going to see where we are. By that, when this program airs, we'll find out where we are. A, how important is American Dream? B, what are you concerned about as it relates to American Dream?
American Dream, and disclosure, they're a member of CINJ and a great member.
They are a member of your organization.
Of our organization. What it means to the local economy, to the state economy, is really phenomenal. I've had the opportunity to actually tour it. When you think about the 16,000 jobs, all the construction jobs that have happened in, the past 2 or 3 years, this is going to be just an absolute incredible hit for our economy, positive hit, and I think it's something that I think a lot of New Jerseyans are excited about.
Transportation. Please talk to me about transportation. How the heck are we going to move those people, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I think will actually work itself out in the sense that, take a step back, it's just not the American Dream issue, right? Transportation across the state, I'm hearing from our businesses, has gotten worse. The traffic, the congestion. There are a lot of things that the government should be doing now, and we've worked with the DOT.
What does that mean, the government should be doing?
I think we ought to, and we're promoting the need for a statewide master plan on transportation.
We don't have one?
We don't have one. We have one on energy. We have one on water. From what I heard, there's maybe a transportation master plan, but what we really need is a coordination plan, right? Too many vehicles on the road, not enough capacity, not enough lanes. So one of those things where I think we need to tackle it from a statewide perspective and not just that local issue.
How does it affect business?
Dream.
By the way, we should I should give you a chance to do this. We cross-promote in your publication, you're cross-promoted with ours, but I don't want to assume that people know what your organization is and who you represent. I want to give you a chance to do that.
I appreciate that. Well, we've been around since 1927. We're a general business group located in Rochelle Park with an office in Trenton. We're proud advocates of a free market economy, and that's really the mantra. is we're big proponents of let the markets drive that innovation in the economy. So, but going back to transportation.
Yeah, how does it affect these businesses?
Every time somebody can't get to their next meeting, or every time a trucker can't deliver their product, the cost goes up. But it's also bad for the environment, right? So there's emissions. So we have to solve the problem statewide. There's been a lot of focus on Amtrak and NJ Transit, which is rightfully so, but I think there also needs to be a look at how do we relieve congestion. You know, I heard numbers of close to 8 or 9 million registered cars in New Jersey. When you think about it, we only have 1 or 2 lanes, 3 lanes if you're lucky. We need to move people around the state a lot.
Can we talk about Gateway?
Talk about Gateway, very important.
By the way, check out our interview with, is it Jerry Zauer? Jerry Zauer, who is the CEO of the Gateway Corporation. So, what is it? Remind folks about this tunnel, why it's so important, and if it doesn't happen, its impact on quality of life, economic development in our state.
I think it's
not to mention New York as well.
Probably the biggest game changer that has to come down in the sense of, I know that the funding is the issue right now, but we're big supporters of it. It's about getting people through to New York and back, and it'll just relieve the congestion on the bridges, the tunnels.
What will it do? It's an extra tunnel?
It's an extra tunnel that'll commute, not only, I believe it's freight maybe, and it's also commuters.
Yes, it is.
And it's desperately needed if you look at the age. And I'm happy to say that when the Holland Tunnel was actually open was the year that CI&J was founded, 1927. So we have an aged infrastructure. So this Gateway project is so critical because I think once it becomes a reality, it'll help with the congestion. It'll get people off the roads to mass transit.
But as we speak, President Trump has not made the commitment on the part of the federal government and the state and the National Department and the Federal Department of Transportation. They're not committed to their part. Governor Cuomo in New York, Governor Murphy in New Jersey, they're saying we're in. But you can't do it without the feds, Tony, can you?
No, you can't. I mean, just the money isn't there. And that's why we're advocating to the federal government that this is a priority. Forget about whether being a Republican or a Democrat. This is about the economy.
Not partisan, not ideological.
It shouldn't be a partisan issue. No, not at all.
By the way, real quick, give you 10 seconds. Biggest concern on the part of small business today is?
Just being able to do business in a cost-efficient way and the ability to operate.
Are our taxes high enough?
Taxes are high, and we hope that that gets solved soon. So.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree right now.
Thank you, Steve.
This has been Tony Russo from the Commerce and Industry Association. Thanks for joining us,
Thank
Tony.
you, Steve. Thanks,
this is Think Tank. I'm Steve Adubato. A lot of people thinking for themselves out there right now. I'll be right back.
To watch more Think Tank with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We now welcome Dr. Waseem Bhatti, who's Medical Director of Interventional Radiology at Summit Medical Group. Good to see you, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How do you define interventional radiology?
Interventional radiology is a subspecialty of radiology where we perform procedures using image guidance, so using CAT scan or ultrasound guidance. I can go ahead and make an intervention in anyone's organ, depending on if they need therapy or if they need a diagnosis.
You know, this is part of an ongoing conversation, an ongoing series on Think Tank that deals with the future of innovation and also the future of healthcare. They come together here because you've said that the future of radiology is in some ways your term, Star Trek medicine.
Yes.
Break it down.
Star Trek medicine for me is, patient goes in to see the doctor, you get your diagnosis, you get your treatment, and you're out of there. That's our goal. So what we do is when a patient comes in, they get the highest quality imaging possible. We make our diagnosis. If they need a biopsy, it's done through needle hole, if we can get that done for that patient. And a lot of times now our treatments are done through needle holes. So I can place a catheter in someone's liver if they have a tumor and treat that tumor through a small catheter, take out the catheter, patient's ready to go home.
So as we're following along, Dr. Bhatti, I'm curious about this. The term embolization.
Yes.
Is that what you just described, or is that something different?
That's exactly what I described. Basically, embolization is when we starve a tumor of blood supply.
Starve?
Yeah, exactly. We want to take away all of the blood supply from a tumor so that it doesn't have the nutrients it needs to grow. Now, when we do that, we can also inject radioactive beads in that tumor to also treat it with radiation or inject a chemotherapy agent into that tumor.
Where's the innovation there?
The innovation is basically, this is one of the new specialties in medicine. And 30 to 40 or 50 years ago, we weren't doing these procedures. The innovation comes in with the technology that we use. We can do a CT while the patient's on the table getting an embolization done, for instance. We can combine images. So if patients already had an MRI, We could take that MRI, overlap it with current images we have in the procedure room, and use that to really efficaciously treat that tumor.
I want to disclose, as we always do, that Summit is one of the many healthcare organizations that supports our efforts. But let me ask you this. What I'm curious about is another issue that many, many people are dealing with who are watching us right now. Patients dealing with cancer, and also their families, their caregivers. You've talked a lot about quality of life for patients dealing with cancer. I don't like to use the term, quote, cancer patients, but patients dealing with cancer. What does quality of life have to do with innovation?
So quality of life, for me, what that means is it's beyond treating the tumor. It's really addressing the issues that come about when you have a disease or diagnosis like cancer. So that could be something as simple as making sure that patient has enough food on the table, making sure they can have the transportation they need to go see their doctors, or it could be financial. So a lot of times if you have a serious tumor and you can't work, that financial strain could definitely be an impact on quality of life. At Summit, we try to really address all those issues. We have a team that can basically talk to you, figure out what's going on, and find you the resources that you need to get those addressed.
Doctor, you've argued that a patient dealing with cancer being more active, more social, more engaged in activities and others is also a question of quality of life. It also impacts quality of life. How so?
So, Steve, being a physician, I'm a scientist, and I love the science behind what we do. But I also should learn from my patients, and I see that patients who are happy, patients who are doing well and able to attend their family events, they do better.
Well, hold on. What do you mean they do better? You mean the outcomes?
Their outcomes are better. They feel better. They're more responsive to the treatment. They show up to their visits on time. They're in a better mood. And the research is starting to come out that if you have a strong support network, you will clinically do better. And so if anything that I can do to really lead the patients towards that type of lifestyle and give them that support on my end as physician, I'll make that effort to do that.
Dr. Bhatti, let me ask you this. Go back to another question about innovation and use of, I think it's embolization.
Yes.
Is it used in, what other specific areas in terms of, is it prostate, gastric issues?
Yes.
How is it treated? Explain that.
So it really depends on which organ we're talking about. Our first and initial foray with embolization was in the liver. And we treat liver tumors, and we are treating liver tumors with embolization. We treat them by injecting beads or radiation.
You keep saying beads. I hear that term a lot.
Yeah.
What do you mean beads?
Beads are basically small, microscopic, sand-like particles. They're made of a polyvinyl alcohol, and we inject it in the blood vessel to clog up the blood vessel to prevent any flow to the tumor.
Okay.
And these are the same beads that we can use in the uterus, for instance, for a woman with uterine fibroids. Half of all women who are age 50 have uterine fibroids. Half. And they may not all be symptomatic, but it's a common condition. We can treat them, use the beads to treat men who have benign prostate hyperplasia, or BPH, where the prostate is large, they have urinary symptoms. And now we're studying, and hopefully in the near future, we can treat these beads to treat the stomach for patients who are obese.
Follow-up question. We do a lot of healthcare programming, a lot of medical-related programming. Again, check our website out to find out some of that programming. But it seems to me, it's shocking to me, doctor, that innovation also sometimes means breaking down of barriers amongst clinicians who now are talking to each other. Say radiologists. There are different kinds of radiologists, right?
Sure.
You're talking to each other, engaging each other, sharing information. That's innovative?
Well, that is innovative because unless we communicate, we're not going to really figure out what are the problems and what are the challenges
Too
we
many
need to address.
barriers in the past?
There were too many barriers in the past, and we're siloed, So a radiologist would do his work in his office.
Or hers.
Or hers. Now, because of text messaging, because of online communication.
Sorry for interrupting. Is it easier to communicate, collaborate, and share information because of innovative technology?
It is. So, for instance, electronic health records. I remember growing up, to get a referral from a doctor's office, you'd go see the doctor, come back the next day, pick it up, go to your specialist. It was a whole ordeal. Now that same process takes me a few mouse clicks.
Because of electronic medical records?
Exactly. And that's the type of investment Summit's made to make that type of care seamless for patients. And so the more seamless our care is, the better we'll be at addressing the health challenges of our patients.
Dr. Bhatti, I want to thank you. Dr. Waseem Bhatti is Medical Director of Interventional Radiology at Summit Medical Group. I want to thank you for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
Well done.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by the Russell Berry Foundation, Delta Dental of New Jersey, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, the Northward Center, Fedway Associates, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, the New Jersey Education Association, Choose New Jersey, and by Wells Fargo. Promotional support provided by NJ.com and by Jaffe Communications. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Hi, I'm Dennis Wilson, President and CEO of Delta Dental of New Jersey. You probably know that visiting your dentist and daily at-home care are necessary for maintaining good oral health. What you might not know is that your oral health is connected to your overall health. Oral health may impact conditions like diabetes, blood disorders, and heart disease. Regular cleanings and checkups allow your dentist to assess your risk and keep you and your smile healthy.